What's the wildest thing you've accidentally overheard during someone else's private time? Two old ladies on a bus in Aberdare. I told her she's being too bloody fuzzy. A cock's a cock. I was working in an office building during after hours. It was just me and this other guy on the second floor, but I don't think he realized I was there and thought he was alone. He was in a video call, and when it ended he put his hands in his face and said these fuckers are lucky I don't light up the place. My cousin telling his business partner how much he enjoyed going down on him. Both guys are married with women and have kids. Me sitting on the stoop having a cigarette when my female neighbor chases her husband and male roommate out of their trailer yelling you wanna be a FT and fuck him, go do it in someone else's house. I never went inside faster in my life. Years ago my then flatmate and his girlfriend were partaking in what he later described as milking, the details of which he didn't share, but I could, and unfortunately still can, imagine. I, being a sensible young man with work in the morning, had gone to bed early, but was woken from my slumber at about 3 a.m. to her yelling at him to moo like a cow, followed by him mooing like a cow. This went on, with the moos getting progressively louder, for about 15 minutes ending with a final satisfied sounding moo. Secondly later the girlfriend screamed bad cow. I wanted milk, this tastes like yogurt. Causing him, me and presumably our upstairs neighbors to burst into fits of laughter. He was moaning coming for like 5 minutes. So either, 1. He had a 5-minute orgasm. 2. She's a master of edging. 3. He's a liar. I was getting moderately drunk in my backyard when my neighbor started yelling, so damn loud that I could hear them from inside their house. Mom was telling Dad that she was sick of their disabled son jacking off in their car. Lady, she poked holes in her diaphragm so my baby daddy could get her pregnant to spite me. To myself, people still use diaphragms? When I was a stoner teenager, we'd go to my friend's house as his mum didn't mind if we smoked in the house. Once we're mid-session and she comes home with a guy and says to my friend, "Go out and get some food stuffing 20 through the door whilst separately running the bath." My guy goes out for 15 mins and as you'd expect all I can hear is vigorous bathtub rubbing action, although not for long. I'm baked off my face and tripping out. My guy comes home with chicken and chats to his mum who sees me in his room. We caught eyes but never spoke. Saw lots of weird stuff when I was a kid. Feels like a different life. The loser that used to rent our basement was having sex and we could hear him through the vent saying, "Oh yeah," like the fucking Kool-Aid man. One of my friends went to Bangalore and video called me to show some scenery of a park. During the call, we saw a bush shaking wildly. I asked him to raise his phone so I could take a look. It was a couple intimately effing. Leave the pants. I was in New York with my mum about 18 years ago. We were staying in a pretty nice hotel. After a long day wandering around NYC, taking in the sights, going to a musical, we head back to the room to settle in for the night. 4 a.m. rolls around. My mum is dead asleep. This woman could easily fall asleep in the middle of a tornado. I was awake, watching Whose Line reruns on late night cable. Then I hear it squeak squeak squeak. I kind of laughed to myself, like, isn't this just the quintessential NYC hotel experience? And the rhythmic squeaking goes on a few moments longer until it very abruptly stops. I then hear the sound of someone throwing themselves out of bed, hitting the floor, then scrambling across the floor towards the bathroom before violently vomiting up everything they'd ever consumed on this earthly plane. Total elapsed time, from start to finish? 3.5 minutes, and at least 2 minutes of that was emetic. Me sitting on my front steps, smoking a blunt, my neighbors upstairs having sex with the windows open. After grunting and groaning, a woman said, "Fuck my tiny little hole, I'm so tight." I laughed so hard, I was too high not to. "Ah, that's it, lick it, don't sniff it." Roomie in college, his girlfriend at college, not the one at home, was apparently, I found out the next morning, writing him while tears were running down her face when she said, "I don't care if you don't really love me." I overheard my neighbor's credit card details. I also knew it was coming, since he announced it by calling his GF, I think, to tell him his credit card's details. I felt a little bit guilty for overhearing it, but maybe a less scrupulous neighbor might have just grabbed a pen and a piece of paper. I rented the top apartment house, but there was one room that the downstairs couple had. They used it as their fuck room so kids wouldn't hear, but I could and night. I usually turned up my music or TV. So they knew I had to have some clue. But they really found out when I had a really good summer and had girls coming over to my place a few times a week, and several were loud. The girl downstairs sheepishly asked me if I could hear them. Like she heard Mace said YUP. The best lines were he was coming. He would always ask her, "Where do you want my load? Where do you want IT?" She always said on my tits or face. Pull out must have been their BC plan. Woman on the train having a phone call and yelling at the guy on the other side of the line for putting his finger up her someone else's ass. She seems to disagree with it, and I always wondered who the guy and other women were to her. F16 While I was at PE, there was a guy and girl who was planning to do it in the school changing room, thinking nothing will happen. Then I heard the girl say, "I'm lesbian. I don't like guys anymore, but I like the decks." And then the guy said, "So you're a gay slur?" And then they started arguing, but that was crazy. Don't know why they didn't realize there was people having PE.